Welcome back to a frightening episode of The Verdict. Today we are celebrating Friday the 13th, and to kick off the first part of our Verdict Halloween special, we'll be taking a look at some of our favorite classic horror films. Hello everyone, my name is Kai, and today I am joined by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Michael.
And I'm Rashawn.
The first classic slasher we'll be talking about is the original Friday the 13th. This movie was directed by Sean S. Cunningham and the stars of Adrian King, Kevin Bacon, and Betsy Palmer. Let's watch the trailer. Thank you.
I've had this dream. I'm in a thunderstorm, and it's raining really hard. It sounds like pebbles when it hits the ground. I try to block out the sound with my hands, only it doesn't work. It just keeps getting louder and louder. And the rain turns to blood.
It's just a dream.
Are you crazy?
We ain't gonna stand for no weirdness out here.
Hello?
So what kind of precedent or cliches did this movie set or other slashers?
I'd say probably maybe like the slow anticipation of the buildup. The killer wasn't told until like the very end of the movie. So I feel like the buildup maybe could be like the cliches. Of course, like slashers, it's only like someone slashing people. So it's very, very difficult to start like a franchise off, but I think they did a really good job on that part.
Yeah, and what I also think they did a good job on is like the suspense and like the eerie of all this, of what's going on and unpredictable moments in some occasions.
Like the storytelling. I know the soundtrack to the movie was a big part of the first Friday, just because they, like I said, it was supposed to be suspenseful. You didn't know that the killer was there until like the music started.
Yeah.
Very like bumping.
Yeah, and what I also like about it is that once they messed around, like once they get around and find out, or they like get closer and closer, it's just like the music become more louder and louder, and just more scarier and scarier, and just give you like unexpected surprise. So, who do you think the killer was at first when you first watched the video or movie?
I mean, knowing I've seen at least like 2 other Friday the 13th movies beforehand, so obviously I already knew who it was gonna be. But seeing as how the first one seems like more like a whodunit kind of, like you don't really get to see the killer. You might think it was one of the crazy dudes in town that you meet in the beginning. That's probably it.
Trying to scare off.
Trying to scare off people.
Like a little Scooby-Doo type thing, like kind of scare off the kids. But the reveal of it being Jason's mother, I obviously I thought it was a really good thing, and then to find out the actual actress behind it was just doing the role just to get a new car. Icing on the cake. It was so hilarious to find out that she was doing that. I don't really think there was much suspense in this movie, to be honest. Yes, it was kind of scary, but I don't think there was much suspense throughout it.
And kind of piggybacking off what you said, I feel like some of the scenes kind of were dragged on too. Like when the generators went out and she started making the cup of coffee, it was like, why are we watching this
Exactly.
Why are we watching this lady make a cup of coffee? And it's like, this is the climax of the movie. It's like everyone's dead. So what are we doing here? Like let's push to the end a little bit.
Yeah, some of those scenes that drag on too long, and I'm just like, Jesus, please move faster or cut this out. Another thing to add on is that there's too many throat kills. What? I am someone who's like sensitive about my neck, my neck area, and so like there's too many. The arrow thing, the dude hanging off the door with the arrow, then Kevin Bacon's character just lying in bed.
Well, I feel like, to say what you were saying, I feel like the arrow kill was like one of the most historic kills in the franchise. It's like the most noticeable. So I think Tom Savini, the makeup artist, he actually did a very good job, especially like it being such an older film. Like everything's practical, all the like throat slits, the blood spouting and everything.
Yeah.
It's like that's all practical, no CGI, and it gave it a real feel to it. It's like these people are actually like feeling it.
And then what makes it also interesting about it is that, like, duly noted, like back then, the blood splattering and all that, like it was like wow, like that was, even though it's an old movie, but it was like wow, that looks so more realistic than any other movie that almost all of them.
Well, to say that's realistic, near the climax, they were actually fighting each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I found that out too, and I was like, Jesus, they're actually slapping each other, like wrestling on the beach.
Throwing them
Man,
around like rag dolls.
Man, like it was just amazing to me though.
Because you see nowadays you can't get away with that stuff, or not get away, but you can't really do too much of that.
Yeah, but okay, so adding on to that, what are your thoughts on who the killer turned out to be?
I feel like Pamela Voorhees really wasn't like brought up as much in the story. Like I know there was one time when she got a ride from the truck driver that he brought up Jason and Pamela, like the mother and son. But me, I didn't know it was Pamela. Like I watched this movie like dozens of times, and the first time I watched it, I didn't think it was her, just because she was never really brought up until that one scene. We just kind of got left off, and it's like he died. Camp counselors weren't watching him. And he drowned, and the mom just like snapped, and that was kind of it. Until she came up and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm Pamela, friend of the Christies," and just came out of nowhere. But I think Betsy Palmer did a really good job acting. I really love her work in general, and she's just very iconic to the franchise.
Yeah. So this brings me to my third question. How would you compare this movie to any other movies in the series?
Nothing alike.
It's the weakest, in my opinion.
Nothing
it's
alike.
The weakest one.
Just because we're for Jason movies, it's known for have high pace action, like him killing people. Mm-hmm. But like the first movie, like he said, there were a lot of throat slits, like not like a lot of creative kills, which I mean, like I said, it's an older film. It's the first film that they produced. So to start it off, it was all right, but I think the newer Jason movies kind of did it justice.
Made a little better.
Yeah.
Made a little better.
Yeah,
so on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you give this movie?
I'd say maybe a 6.
Okay.
I give it a 5.
5.
I give it a 5. It's too slow, and again, throat slits, I don't like it. Can't.
What about you though?
I think it was like, as for it to be a classic, I give it, like you said, a 6 or a 7, because it's a classic. So like everybody gonna remember that movie more than anything. So.
That 7's a little too gracious. I don't know about that 7.
Okay, so we say 6.
Now we can all have our opinions, but for our next movie, I'll be talking about the 1992 version of Candyman. This movie was directed by Bernard Rose, and it stars Tony Todd, Virginia Madison, and Cassie Lemons. But let's look at the trailer.
Have you ever heard of Candyman? If you look in the mirror, you say his name 5 times.
In cities everywhere,
Candyman?
they whisper his name.
Right. Candyman.
It's just a story.
Candyman?
Candyman.
Just a ghost story.
Candyman.
So this movie kind of takes a hitch on like urban legends and just like the background of it. So with that, do y'all think that the background of Candyman's like backstory, you think it was justified for him to have all this hurt and like kill people unjustly?
It's complicated. it is a very complicated thing because it does tie back into race relations and obviously back into the days where you couldn't be having mixed relationships. Him being in love with a white woman who I believe was, I think, a rich guy, and then Candyman, if I'm not mistaken, was a painter. I want to say it's somewhat justified, but it's not really. To the point where it is basically, I get it, you want payback on people who've hurt you, but don't just hurt random people. You might want to just hurt the people, like their family, their family down the line, if that kind of makes sense. It's hard to like say it, but
yeah, he doesn't have like really just a motive. He doesn't have a motive of killing people. It's just I went through something that was bad, so now you have to go through something that's bad. Kind of like a ordeal.
Yeah, but you got to realize, like, it's like how the real world is, kind of how it is today. Like, if one person hurt, people want to make other people hurt. That's how a mindset. Some people mindsets that that are. So
yeah,
I can't really say like he was wrong, but I can't say that he's right either.
Yeah, it's like it's a mix. It's complicated.
It's like, you got to look at it from both point of views. Gray area.
Yeah.
So,
well, with saying that though, do you think his intentions to leaving Helen alive so long was purposeful, or do you think he was just intending to take her with him into like the afterlife?
I don't think they were moving on to the afterlife. I think he just wanted her, because they were gonna live forever, right? Yeah. I don't really see the purpose in it. I mean, he seems to be fine on his own, just killing people left and right. Having a wife, women definitely drag me down. But no, let me stop. Having a wife to help him, it'll grow, but I mean, I don't think it'll change much. I really don't like the design they had for her when she does, die and become her own thing. But it's just like, okay. I will say, though, he is a master gaslighter if he is just like, if that's actually not his wife. So, leave that as it may.
Yeah. Got her wrapped up. But do y'all feel like it was, well, not even that. So I know the practical effects of this movie there was no CGI, like all the bees that he had on him were real. How do y'all feel about that? Like, is that something that y'all would do in a circumstance? For like how big is your would you do this?
I would say heck no.
I was about to say no.
I'm terrified of bees. And it's actually funny that you brought that up because it reminded me of something with Friday. In Friday, they killed someone's pet snake.
Yeah.
In this, they got baby bees, and even though they got the I want to say the stuff under his mouth, or Tony Todd's mouth, so they wouldn't actually go in there. The few bees still got underneath, and they got on his cheek and stuff. I'd still be terrified and say nope, not doing it.
But Tony Todd did get paid $1,000 each sting, and he did get stung 23 times.
He got stung. I thought he didn't get stinged at all.
No, he did get stung.
He
I remember
stung.
that.
Oh my God. Yeah, heck no.
He said, I don't care about $23,000. I like
God,
my
no.
body.
Well, I mean,
the effects are good, but I don't think they're worth it to have bees in my mouth, especially crawling on my face. Oh God, no.
Yeah, it's just a cringing, just like, oh.
Like, ooh.
But like
maybe queeze.
Speaking on Tony Todd, his performance in not even just this one, but in the other Candyman movies and all the movies in general, Tony Todd is such a good actor. I really love it when he plays the villain sometimes, or when he just plays that menacing threat, or just like that guy who knows, like in the Final Destination movies. I'm just like, I just love hearing his voice.
Yeah, especially his voice acting. It's very ominous. He gives it like a different feel to it.
He gives Keith David a bit of a run for his money, to be honest, with voice acting. Oh my God.
So do y'all think this movie had an impact on today's society, like putting razors and candy and stuff like that?
Most definitely. Because dealing with Halloween coming up, so like that stuff, all that is just like, it makes you nervous.
Yeah, it's something you have to double think about. It's because my mom has been always the type to be like double check the candy, double check the candy, like because you really never know in people's intentions. Like, so there's some crazy people in this world.
It is
for sure. So, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you guys rate the movie though?
I would give this a 7. I thought it was really good. I love Tony Todd's acting. I really love the background information that the stuff goes into this movie. Like, they actually got actual gang members from that neighborhood to be in the movie. They had to voice over them a little bit, but still pretty good. I don't like some of the other characters, like Helen's husband who's cheating on him. Obviously, you saw
Trevor.
Trevor sucked ass. So was that girl. I don't really care too much about like the neighborhood itself, like some of the residents. Mm-hmm. But I did like it, and I love how as the sequels come out, they still kind of continue it. Even like the new one, the Jordan Peele one, it goes off from it. All goes back to it, and I really like that. It was good to get that information in from it. But
I give it a 7. I'm automatic because it's been a good movie. Like, I just love watching it all the way through my childhood all the way up. I still watch it. So
plus, I was gonna say plus, if you think about it, Tony Todd's Candyman is the first black horror villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't think about that until just now because I'm trying to think of anybody else, but I'm like, wow.
You don't really have anybody else.
Yeah.
He set a frame for our people,
Yeah.
But I'm my personal opinion, I'd probably say just one more than y'all, probably an 8. I did think it was, like I said, I really like the concept of urban legends. So it having a movie and having people being able to see that in real life, it's definitely really intriguing, to say the least.
All right. And so for our last movie, I'm going to be discussing Child's Play, which released in 1988. This movie was directed by Tom Holland, not the one from Spider-Man, and stars Brad Dourif, Kathleen Hicks, and Chris Sanderson. So let's play that trailer.
Everyone has a birthday they'll always remember.
Can we open my presents now, Mommy? A good guy! I knew it! Hi, I'm Chucky.
He's something, isn't he?
This is Andy's.
Time for bed, Andy.
Good night, baby. Good night, Aunt Maggie. Good night, Chucky.
All right, so let me ask you guys this. So what elements of the original Child's Play or other classic horror films, for instance, do you think are missing from this movie for recent reboots in general for the franchise of Child's Play?
That are missing?
That are missing, that are not, basically, how do I say this? That are not from the first movie, that are taken away from it, that are either improved on or something that could have been, kept on through other films.
I mean, honestly, I don't think there is one. I feel like the biggest thing for me was the anticipation of finding out who the killer was. The shots of him running around first person view was very intriguing. That's something they've kind of done throughout the franchise though, which kind of doesn't answer the question, but like I said, I think that's something that they really did a good job on. It's just portraying a story between it.
Do you ever get tired of when they do the first person shot in the other movies?
A little bit. Yeah, because it kind of does feel dragged on, just doing the same thing and him just running around, grabbing a knife. Mm-hmm. I feel like they definitely could have implemented something more creative throughout the franchise, but all around though, I think Child's Play does have a pretty good background to it.
And I'm piggybacking off what you said. I really want the unpredictable. I really want I didn't know he was about to do that, because it is the same thing. He picks up the knife, he's getting ready to kill someone, or or try to kill somebody, and it's I want that, but I want that unpredictable.
Yeah.
I want it to be wow, that's shocking.
Yeah, once you see it, it's kind of you already know. Yeah, you already know what's gonna happen. Chucky's setting something up. She's gonna do something to somebody.
Now, I will say in the first movie, it was the kills in this were unique, and I'll say like the first couple of kills, especially with that the kill with the aunt, with the roof, not roof, but the glass window thing. That was such a good kill. I ain't gonna lie. Although it's kind of weak to be killed by a ruler, if you just smack the head with a ruler, you're kind of weak for that. Not gonna lie. Just I don't know what's up with you about that. But so do you guys think that the popularity of this franchise is directly responsible for other stories with killer dolls, Annabelle, Slappy? I'm not even gonna say Slappy because he's not a killer doll. Let's be honest here. Slappy don't do anything besides like mess with you.
He's weak.
Yeah, but like Annabelle or most recently Megan.
Yeah.
For sure. I feel like they definitely do have relations between it because, of course, Chucky was the first possessed doll, and from more to come, you can see that they had to have some inspiration from Chucky to do this. So that's my personal opinion.
And I agree, cause like if you really watch all of them, like Annabelle for one, like I have watched it so many times, and it's like there's some characteristics that are similar. And there's some characteristics like, make it a little bit different than Chucky because Chucky was number one, number one automatic. So.
Well, I've never seen Annabelle, but like, does she actually move her stuff?
Honestly, I don't. From what my knowledge, I don't think so. I haven't watched the Annabelle movie, but
yeah, I haven't seen them. But I do. Obviously, she is a killer. Like, I think she makes people go insane. But still, I still know. Like, I still see the differences and somewhat similarities between her and Chucky. I would say though, as someone who grew up watching the Child's Play films, first being afraid of them. And now, like, I'm 21 now. I'm watching all of them every October. I'm watching the TV show. I would say Chucky, superior killer doll, first off, foremost. Yes, his movies have gotten cheesy a little bit. Like, at least 2 of the movies have gotten cheesy in the past. Yeah, let's
stop right there.
They kind of went off the slope into horror, to a little bit of comedy.
Yeah.
I think it still does its justice. I feel...
and I would say actually the comedy kind of works a little bit for Chucky. They had a rough start. Yeah, they had a rough start in the beginning with a little bit with Bride of Chucky and then with Seed of Chucky, which we're not talking about that. But it started helping out a bit more throughout the line. Now I will say though, Don Mancini, the guy who voices Chucky, oh my God, he is so good, and I hope he never gets replaced. They tried replacing with that Mark Hamill reboot. It wasn't good. It wasn't terrible. But no one replaces Don Mancini. It's just certain voice actors, certain characters need their voice actors.
Yes.
And Don Mancini is one of those people who you cannot replace as Chucky.
Especially if he's done multiple roles as Chucky too, you kind of implement that into your head. It's like he is Chucky and no one else.
Nope.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, he's trying to get his daughter into playing, because his daughter in the new ones, she becomes real life Charles Relay. I'm gonna keep butchering his last name, Ray. And so it's actually funny to see that his daughter is taking on that role. Of course, she's not voicing Chucky, just the human aspect of him, like playing him as a human. She scarily enough looks like a guy with the right makeup. But it's funny to see how a family can like continue on a certain character's legacy, and I like that. That's a cool idea for me.
Absolutely, especially being able to. That's something you can pass on down to your kids. Like, my dad did this, I did this, and maybe one day that you can possibly do it too.
Mm-hmm.
But one point I do want to mention though is the animatronics of the Chucky doll. I found that really interesting because there were at least 3 or 4 different animatronics of that Chucky doll, and it all had different specific parts to work on it. Like, I know one of them was like just the body, one was like facial expressions to like show emotion. I feel like they did a pretty good job with conveying that.
They did a great job on that.
And then they actually had to use like an actual. I can't remember if it was a little kid or if they actually got a little person to actually do the scene, where he's walking around the corner in the hospital after he's trying to get Andy. I don't remember if that was actually a child who they got to do that part, or if it was actually just some guy dressed up as Chucky real quick. Either way, it was still a really cool shot to see like him actually moving. I love that every time you get to actually see him running around instead of just like first person view shot. I think seeing his body actually run around is a lot better thing to see.
I don't care what nobody says. I'm still nervous of seeing that doll. I really I'd be terrified if I see that doll.
Yeah, no, instantly kick it. Like, listen, any good guy doll in general, you instantly put that thing, lock it in a closet, burn the closet, move somewhere else. I don't care what anybody's saying.
Change your name.
Exactly.
Or better yet, don't buy it at all.
That's even better.
Don't buy it at all.
Yeah, because when this movie came out, when the first Child's Play came out, same week or the week after Christmas or whatever, a lot of Cabbage Patch Kids were in the garbage. A lot of kids were afraid of dolls after that. Nah, didn't even want to touch them.
And it's crazy because I knew someone that had the actual Chucky doll, and he used to put it right there up in the window, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, and it's 1 minute you'll see it and it disappears, and I don't know if he moves it or whatever. I'd be like, man, I want to tell him run. I want to tell him just run.
You got to give him some type of hint or something.
I really want to, but there ain't nothing you can do about it. So.
But that's all. So what would you guys rate it? The first Child's Play, at least. What would you guys rate it?
I'd say probably an 8. There were some scenes that, kind of like you said, it was like the POV shots of it were just kind of there were a lot of it, but once again, very good movie. It's definitely set a path for different movies between down the line. So all around was a pretty good movie.
I'm with Mike on this one. I give it an 8. So
give it an 8.
Yeah, because it's a classic. Nothing can beat it.
Can't not go wrong with the classics.
He is part of the Mount Rushmore of horror icons. I will
yes,
say that, yeah.
He is number 1.
I would personally, since I'm going to be a little biased here, but since I grew up watching it and stuff like that, huge Chucky fan. I'm not going to give it a 10 because even I have to admit the first movie is a little weak out of all of them. Not as weak as Seed of Chucky, but I would give it a 9 only because I love, like you were talking about earlier, the puppeteering. I love it, especially when that scene where he's in the kitchen with the voodoo guy. Mm-hmm. That really sold it for me. It was so good. I love everybody's acting in the movie, and I honestly really love how it took off. I was so glad. But yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10.
Quick tangent real quick. Speaking of acting, I really loved the little boy that acted Andy. He was so so innocent. It's just I kind of felt bad for him, especially when he was starting to mess up his lines, stumble. It's you can tell that he's, he doesn't, he kind of knows what he's doing, but
he just
that's that line at the end when he's about to bring him this is the end, friend. It reminded me of the you ever seen Leprechaun?
Yeah.
The kid who's screw you, Lucky Charms. But yeah, he was really good, and I'm glad he got to grow up with the series as well. Mm-hmm. He got to be in the sequels and in the TV show.
Especially a good cameo too.
Mm-hmm.
It was. Well, thanks again for joining us for the first part of the Verdict Halloween special. Make sure you check our part 2 next week, where we'll be looking at some more family-friendly Halloween classics.